Alright, we got nighttime, daytime, cough time, throat soothers, immune boosters, and Kleenex. For when I want to blow my nose harder than Kevin King blows coverages. Welcome back to another episode of Odd Man Sports here on the Game Day. I'm your host, Brandon Perna, and I'm contractually obligated to make an episode, even on my deathbed. I'm also the host of That's Good Sports. Last week, I said that if you subscribe to both channels, you'd be eligible to win a football phone. Did I also mention that this football phone has been secured, and it has my face on it? The fine print, however, is if you subscribe to just one channel, you're eligible to win a phone call from yours truly. Just two guys talking on the phone about boys. My only rule, no phone sex. On this week's episode, we got a hot tub Tom machine, some nice things to say about the Jets, the New York kind, not the hot tub Jets, and finally, I'm going to do the impossible and mount a defense of the most costly coaching decision in years. Time for Dinks and Dunks, the NFL news and notes segment where things might get a little weird, as opposed to the segments after, where things will most definitely get weird. Speaking of weird, Tom Brady, Tampa Tom, has done the mildly improbable and led the Bucs to the Super Bowl. And if Brady wins his 7th Super Bowl, he'll be only 3 away from filling up another hand with rings. And Jason Pierre-Paul will only be 1 ring away. In media news, Philip Rivers was rumored to be in line for the Monday Night Football broadcast job. Reached for comment, Philip Rivers' wife had this to say, "Oh, really? He's gonna be out of the house one more night of the week? Really?" Rivers was also recently named head coach of the St. Michael Catholic High School program. Imagine if Rivers eventually became an NFL head coach. A full season of hard knocks with no swearing. I'd watch. Speaking of quarterbacks on the move, Deshaun Watson announced he prefers to be traded to the Jets over the Dolphins. I too would choose a 2-14 team over a 10-6 playoff contender if it meant I didn't have to deal with the specter of Fitzpatrick hanging over me. It's almost impossible to find a team where Fitzpatrick hasn't left his mark. This man is everywhere. Who has the most touchdowns in Texans single game history? Fitzpatrick. Greatest pass in Dolphins history? Fitzpatrick. Most touchdowns in a season in Jets history? Fitz-fucking-magic. You can run, but you cannot hide, Deshaun. Might as well come to Denver before he does. But if he does end up in New York, we'll be able to quantify exactly how costly those Week 15 and 16 wins over the Rams and Browns were. My guess, 3 first-round picks, and a 3rd and a 4th, and like $110 million, which sounds like a lot, but can you put a price on putting a smile back on Frank Gore's face? Another Jets news, recently hired head coach, the sultry Robert Saleh, had this to say to Sports Illustrated about his remote interview process with the team. You know your organization is a mess when people are complimenting you like, "I was really surprised with how nice the Zoom call was. No one was eating a burrito bowl with their hands. The password got changed, so Adam Gase couldn't keep sneaking into the call. And I only saw one masturbator. And it was me." And finally, the Super Bowl will have a different feel this year with many of the big brands like Budweiser, Pepsi, and Gatorade all sitting out of the big game. Filling the void are newcomers like Thriller and online marketplace Fiverr. Airtime is so cheap, I bought a spot for my new video conferencing software, Blurna. That's right, Blurna, which automatically obscures your junk if you stand up on a video chat without pants. Next to getting married, it's the best way to ensure nobody will ever see your dick again. Blurna, because one tubin is one too many. Blurna by Perna. Money talks. Imagine all of the bets I could make with my Blurna money. Now, the Super Bowl means more casual betting will occur than any other day of the year. And this includes my personal favorite, prop bets. Now, sure, you can bet on the length of the national anthem, which team scores first, and the color of the Gatorade dump, but those might as well be your grandmother's scratch-offs. Here are a couple of my favorite prop bets for this year's Super Bowl. Is Jennifer Lopez performing? And I'm betting yes. Now, I don't even know if J-Lo's scheduled for the game, but somehow I know J-Lo will be performing. J-Lo is like America's new version of Bob Hope. Inaugurations, football games, reality shows, it doesn't matter. J-Lo is on the docket. The prop within the prop is to bet on Garth Brooks showing up at some point to remind everyone that even country singers can go liberal if you pay them enough. My next prop bet: number of times a mic'd up Patrick Mahomes says the word, hey. Now, the over-under is a little steep at 41,000, but before you take the under, let me remind you of this.
Hey! Oh! Hey! You right there! Look at me! Hey, look at me! Hey, we good!
Hey. My next prop: how many interceptions will Brady have to throw before his amazing team around him gets any credit for carrying his old ass through the postseason? Here we are, odd man out. And I have 4 words for Matt LaFleur. To quote Robin Williams, it's not your fault. Now, only if Aaron Rodgers hugs him the way Matt Damon eventually does in that scene from Good Will Hunting, everything will be fine again in Green Bay. But LaFleur, down 8 points late in the 4th at the Tampa 8, elected to kick a field goal, which brought the Packers from down a touchdown to still down a touchdown. And in his post-game press conference, LaFleur shed some light on his thinking.
The way I was looking at it was we essentially had 4 timeouts, and I thought we were going to have a stop there at the end.
That makes sense, but it was a different answer in his presser that provided more insight into what was going through LaFleur's brilliant mind there.
I got confidence in our staff that we'd make the necessary adjustments to have success, and but that's a moot point.
A moot point? Monsieur LaFleur? I think the word you're looking for there is moot. A mute point, ironically, is what Packers reporter Tom Silverstein made during the previous question.
All right, we'll go to Tom Silverstein next. Tom?
Don't have you, Tom.
Now, not to make excuses for LaFleur, but football can be complicated. Knowing when to go for 1 instead of 2 or 3 versus 6, and how it affects the win chance involves probability calculations. And these coaches, I wouldn't exactly call them math guys. Have you seen how flummoxed they get trying to put on a mask? This is the greatest offensive mind of the last 30 years. The reality is, most of these head coaches, if they weren't managing a football team, would be managing an equinox. And now we're gonna treat LaFleur like a Bills Mafia folding table because he calculated in real time that an 80% field goal followed by a 50% chance of a stop followed by a 30% chance at a touchdown for the win was better odds than a 35% chance at a TD followed by a 60% chance at the 2-point, which would have made it a 50-50 tie game? Look, I get it. Fan second-guessing coaching decisions is a national pastime at this point, and often warranted. Like the decision at the end of the first half to put Kevin King on an island in man coverage with 8 seconds left. It's never a good sign when Greg Williams is sitting at home nodding his head, saying, that was the right call. And this wasn't even the most brain-dead coaching decision of the game. That would be LaFleur taking an intentional encroachment on 2nd and 1 at the end of the game to reset downs, which was silly because Arians could have just declined it, which of course Arians didn't think to do. The whole thing was like watching 2 roosters play tic-tac-toe. But in the end, this single decision to take the ball out of the MVP's hands might be LaFleur's undoing. Same thing happened to the Rays in the World Series this year. Rodgers might decide to leave, and the Packers shareholders might then respond by voting Matt off the island, which is how I think things work in Green Bay. And if Rodgers does leave, the Packers will apparently be rolling with Tim Boyle in 2021 because the guy they used their first round pick on has trouble throwing the football at stationary targets. Look, I'd like to tell Matt not to worry. You're young, you've got perfect eyebrows, and you can always go coach high school, some small town like Phillip Rivers. But those jobs usually require you to teach 9th grade math, or in Phil's case, sex ed, which might make your high-level coaching experience a moot point. All right, that's it for today, guys. I'll see you next week.